psychology in English literature. I hope Dr. Sangeeta is going to clear many of the questions which arise in our mind while we read about them. So, without taking much of the time, I request Dr. Sangeeta to begin with her lecture, and our students will certainly be benefited by it. Dr. Sangeeta, please. आप म्यूट कर दीजिए बच्चों अपने आप को सभी. Dr. Sangeeta, you are not audible.
Okay, sorry. Now am I audible?
Yes, it's fine.
First, I would like to thank to the management and HOD sir, Mr. Rajay Kumar, Madhu Sharma, and Rekha Sharma. I thank you one and all for inviting me as your resource person. And I would like to share my knowledge with your college students. And I have selected the topic Indian writing in English and myths review. I divided my presentation into two parts. First one is introduction to the Indian writing in English. Next one is the myths. First, let us see something about our Indian writing in English. English language may be foreign in its origin, but it has gained immense popularity over the years and is also the most preferred language of communication among people of various regions in India. So the advent of Indian literature in English can be traced to the end of the 18th century and the beginning of the 19th century, when English education was established in the cities of Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta in the erstwhile British India. Rajaram Mohan Roy, a social reformist from Bengal, was the pioneer of Indian writing in English, and he insisted that English should be the medium of education in India if it wanted to be included among world's nations. Although he started writing in English, he returned to his native language, Bengali, later in his life. And Indian writing in English, Indian English literature refers to that body of work by writers from India who writes in the English language and whose native or co-native language could be one of the numerous regional and indigenous languages of India. English literature in India is also linked with the works of writers of the Indian diaspora born in India but residing elsewhere. Indian English literature, I mean IEL, it also referred to as writing in English, is the body of work by the writers in India who write in the English language and whose native or co-native language could be one of the numerous languages of India. Its early history began with the works of Henry Louis Vivian D'Orazio and Michael Madhusudhan Dutt, followed by Rabindranath Tagore and Sri Aurobindo, R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, and Raja Rao contributed to the growth and popularity of Indian English fiction in the 1990s. And it is also associated in some cases with the works of members of the Indian diaspora who subsequently composed works in English. It is frequently referred to as Indo-Anglican literature. I mean, the Indo-Anglican is a specific term in the same context of writing that should be confused with Anglo-Indian. Although some Indo-Anglian works may be classified under the genre of post-colonial literature, and the repertoire of Indian English literature encompasses a wide variety of themes and ideologies from the late 18th century to the present day, and thereby eludes easy categorization. That is it. So there were there are poets who are considered the first of the Indian English poets. Henry Vivian Derozio and Madhusudhan Dutt and Aru and Toru Dutt and Manmohan Ghosh. Indian literature in English actually dates back to the 1830s to Kashi Prasad Ghosh, and who is considered the first Indian poet write in English. And Sochi Chandar Dutt, another person, Sochi Chandar Dutt, he was the first writer of fiction. In the beginning, however, political writing in the novel or essay format was dominant, as can be seen in Rajaram Mohan Roy's works. An outstanding Indo-Anglican writer was Aurobindo Ghosh, whose poetic magnum opus is Savitri, an epic. In prose, his most effective work is The Life Divine, outlining his metaphysics in a rich language. Some of Rabindranath Tagore's works were originally written in, yes, ma'am. Originally written in English, sadhana, personality, and the religion of man. Yet another Indian writer in English was Sarojini Naidu, the Nightingale of India, who rendered familiar things with an essence of color and romance. The Golden Threshold, The Bird of Time, and The Broken Wing, they are her important, some of her important works. And Jawaharlal Nehru's prose works, The Discovery of India and Glimpses of World History, they are also famous works in those days. So by this way, the Indian literature gradually came to the development. And in the genre of novel, three early writers made a mark. They are Mulkraj Anand, Anand's Coolie, Untouchable, and The Big Heart. And other novels are about the underprivileged in India. R.K. Narayan has become famous for creating the imaginary Malgudi as the local for most of his novels. He has a humorous manner and an eye for the comic in the world around him. His works include Swami and his friends, The Dark Room, The Guide, Waiting for the Mahatma, and The Man-Eater of Malgudi. Rajarao is a good short story writer and has written only 4 novels, but they are insignificant. They include Kandapura, The Serpent, and The Rope, and The Cat and The Cat and Shakespeare. The Cat and Shakespeare. So besides the legendary and hugely venerated Indian English literary personalities like Rabindranath Tagore or R.K. Narayan, later novelists like Kamala Markandeya, Nectar in Sea, Some Inner Fury, A Silence of Desire, Two Virgins. These are all the works of Kamala Markandeya. Another writer, Manohar Malgonkar, his works Distance Drum, Combat of Shadows, The Princess, Abend in the Ganges, and The Devil's Wind. And next one is Anita Desai. Her works are Clear Light of the Day, The Accompanist, Fire of the Mountain, Games at Twilight, and Nayandara Shagal. Nayandara Shagal have ceaselessly captured the spirit of an independent India, struggling to break away from the British and establish a distinct identity. Next, Khushwant Singh, Train to Pakistan. Then Babani Bhattacharya, So Many Hungers, and He Who Writes the Tiger, and Music for Mohini, or they are all other Indian famous novelists for their writing in English. And in the recent past, we have had a crop of fresh talent. During 1980s and 1990s, India had emerged as a major literary nation, and Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children had become a range around the world, winning the Booker Prize. Other Indian English literature novelists of repute of the contemporary times include V.S. Naipaul and Shobadi, selective memory of Shobadi's work, and G.V. Desani, and Ananta Narayanan, Arun Joshi, O.V. Vijayan, Alan Seeley. Alan Seeley's works, Trotanama, the Trotanama, yes. And Shashi Tharoor, her works, Show Business, the great Indian novel, these are all. And Amitav Ghosh's Circle of Reason, and so on and so on. Vikram Sheth, he was also a greatest novelist. He wrote, Vikram Sheth wrote a novel in verse, The Suitable Boy, which is equally famous for the stupendous advance he got from his publishers. And Upanayo Chatterjee, English August, his work is English August, has made a name for himself as a foremost modern novelist. Next, we can see Arundhati Roy. Arundhati Roy is the god of small things. The god of small things, won the 1997 Booker Prize and became an international bestseller overnight. Next, Rohinton Mystery, Ferdows Kanga, Kiran Desai, their works, Strange Happenings in the Goa Orchard. Next, Sudhir Kagar, his work is The Ascetic of Desire. So, and Jhumpa Lahiri, interpreter of melodies, or some other renowned writers of Indian origin. And Satish Gujral's A Brush with Life, R.K. Lakshman's The Turned Off Life, and Professor Bibin Chandra's India After Independence, Sunil Kilani's The Idea of India, and Yogesh Chadan's Rediscovering Gandhi, and Pavan K. Varma's The Great Indian Middle Class are also some notable works of recent times. And the mid 20th century, Indian literature in English had witnessed the emergence of poets such as Nizam Regal, The Unfurnished Man, then P. Loy, A.K. Ramanujan, Ramanujan's works, The Striders, Relations, Second Rights, cite some of the selected poems. Next poet is Dom Maurice, A Beginning. Then K.K.N. Daruwala and Giv Patel. They are the some of the mid 20th century's important poets. And these authors make use of Indian phrases alongside with the English words and have tried to reproduce a blend of Indian and Western cultures. While Indian poets, novelists, essayists, and dramatists have been making momentous and considerable contributions to the world literature since the pre-independence era, the past few years have witnessed a thriving of Indian English writing in the global market. And the works of Indian authors writing in English are often to be found on the bestseller list. They are also incurring and earning an immense amount of critical fame. Next, we can see the Indian English novel today. The last 2 decades witnessed an unprecedented output in fiction in India. The new fiction category stands unmatched by any other period in the growth and development of the Indian English novel. The various awards and recognitions at international levels they won by this huge yield adds credibility to it. Never before was a situation when India was placed so prestigiously on the international literary map. The most important role is played by the international publishing firms in making these writers reach a global audience. Faber and Faber, Ander Dutch, Heinemann, Alfred Knopf, Random House, Picador, and the list of international publishers publishing Indian English novels is exhaustive. In fact, a full list of these will like a directory of British and American publishers. Equally remarkable is the fact that today even a young Indian writer publishing his first book is readily accepted by a leading publisher in abroad. Thus, Amit Chanduri's first novel, A Strange and Sublime Address, was published by Heinemann in 1991. The earlier condition was such that Mulk Raj Anand's first novel, Untouchable, now it's included in the Penguin Classics. Penguin Classics is the #1 publishers in the world, and it was left untouched by 19 British publishers in 1935, and needed a word from E.M. Forster to persuade Lawrence and Bishop in accepting it. Also, how R.K. Narayan had to wait for the green light before his long and illustrious career could begin. So this doesn't, of course, mean that Amit Chanduri is a better writer than Anand or R.K. Narayan, but it certainly does indicate the ready acceptance of Indian English literature in abroad now. That is it. And the new novelists have proved their mettle by winning competitions with writers whose mother tongue was English. Several major literary awards, prizes, and distinctions, a complete list of which will occupy some of the pages. And to note only the most outstanding of these three novelists have won the Booker Prize, supposedly the British equivalent of the Nobel Prize, and Salman Rushdie for Midnight's Children in 1981, and in 1993 this was adjudged the Booker of Bookers, the best novel to have won the Booker Prize in first 25 years. Then Arundhati Roy for The God of Small Things in 1997, and Kiran Desai for the Inheritance of Loss in 2006. So since then, almost every novel by Rushdie has won an award in one country or another. Spume-bagged the Prix, the Milieu Live Francheur in Paris. The Satanic Verses was given the Author of the Year award in Germany, and the Whitbread Prize for Best Novel, and Eloren and the Sea of Stories qualified for the writers. And Guild Award, Guild Award in England. The Moore's Last Sing was adjudged, and the novel of the year, excuse me. Similarly, Rohinton Mysteries, such a long journey, which was the shortlisted for the Booker Prize, received the Commonwealth Writers' Prizes for the best book, and the Governor General's Award and the W.H. Smith Books in Canada First Novel Award in 1991. Next, Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy won the Commonwealth Writers' Prize for the best book, and the W.H. Smith Award in 1994. And more recently, Jhumpa Lahiri created history of becoming the first Indian author to win the prestigious Pulitzer Award in the USA for her collection of short stories. The Interpreter of Maladies in 1999, the novels of Rushdie, Roy, Anita Desai, and others have been translated as well into numerous European languages, thus setting the seal on their standing in the world of letters today. The most versatile of recent Indian English novelists, Amitav Ghosh, has produced in the Calcutta Chromosome 1996, what is in a large measure a science fiction. In fact, it won the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 1997 as the best novel in genre. Though the narrative has other dimensions as well. It has distinct elements of dystopia, mystery, and ghost story in it. At the center of the narrative is Renald Rose's well-known research on the malarial parasite. The mystery novel or fiction of espionage is also gaining ground early. The only respectable example of it was Manohar Malgonkar's Spy in Amber, which was published in the year 1971. And he has now written two more, Bandicoot Run 1982 and The Garland Keepers 1987, both against the background of Indo-Pakistan tensions. So there was also an Indianness to their work in terms of the words. They used their style of writing. They resonated with the new but growing ranks of Indian reading in English literature. Their works were the forerunners to the magnificent diversity of Indian writing in English that we see today. So that is it. This is a brief introduction to the Indian writing in English. Next, let us pass on to my second part of my presentation, myths. So myths are the stories which are narrated in an imaginative and symbolic manner. It emphasizing on the truth of the cosmos. These complex sagas cannot be explained in terms of ordinary connotation because myth holds history, customs, ancient faiths, and traditions. Indian mythology is certainly a significant part of Indian culture. Myth often fused with legends, chronicles, and folklores in order to shape belief of the common people. The West maintained the rich tradition of using myth and folklores in literary works. So the Greek myth and biblical stories are present in every genre of English literature to add profoundness to the meaning of illustrated works. This tradition continued till this modern age, particularly in India. We find myths and folklores have its own heritage. Indian writers inherited myth and cultivated it in every form of literature, as Indian myths proved to be a generous background. Indian English literature is enriched with stories and themes drawn from Vedas, Upanishad, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and various Buddhist scriptures. The truths of Hindu culture are founded by ma'am, sorry, disconnected. Sorry. Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So this is it. So the truths of Hindu culture are founded by the large number of myths such as Vedic texts and epics and
Hello, ma'am. Audible, ma'am.
let me continue. Okay. So this is it. So the presence of myths is clearly evident in every Indian regional literature, and it explaining the importance of myth. Or myth Helena Helander Renwald says. Helena says about the myth as regardless of how we define myths, the myths are available to us in their daily lives. People often search for explanations for their existence and identity, for the origins of their activities, for the plans of gods, and for certain truths to emerge. Myths are able to give answers that modern knowledge system cannot afford to give. And in postmodern times and beyond, myths help to stretch the boundaries of prevailing worldviews and modes of thought. So this is it. This is the thought of Helena Renwald. So M.H. Abrahams defined myth as if the protagonist is a man rather than a supernatural being, the story is usually not called myth but legend. If the story concerns supernatural beings but it is not a part of systematic mythology, it is usually classified as a folk tale. Famous psychoanalytic Freud acclaimed myth as to be the great primordial truth, the precipitate of the unconscious. That was the definition by the psychoanalytic Freud. Therefore, myth in literature is consciously used by writer, and the writer's mind is unconsciously influenced by ancient tales. So myth is a fantasy which creates a magical world of wonders, providing universal universal fables. Adaptation of myth as a literary device is a very primitive tradition. Classics like Homer, Virgil, and Ovid and Dante, greatly inspired by ancient Greek and Roman myths. So mythical allusions and metaphorical representation of myth is present literature helps to connect with the roots as well as preservation of ancient culture. So the complex concepts of myth have always fascinated and invite attention from different disciplines such as anthropology, linguistics, history, and archaeology. And today in literature, the mythical characters' life and conditions are compared to modern life situations and retold in a complete different way. So myth shapes the meaning of a literary work with all with all depth and breadth of its accumulated meaning. So myth and legends provides a wide range of scope for inspiration. So the faith on the myth enables a writer to choose elements from it and use it for the purpose. So the retelling of myth in different works also helps in continuing the rich tradition. Myth helps the writers to project a personal, social, and political issue in a mythical disguise. Mythical elements, legends, and backdrop of events serve as a huge canvas to portray and project issues of contemporary society like racism, discrimination, injustice, etc. So myth serves literature both as a metaphor and allegory. So by the time we come to this century, we have a rich storage of myths and folklores. In spite of the difference of race, country, culture, and religious belief, some folklore has been some kind affinity that reminds us of their common link with the people and culture. Devadatt Patnaik puts myth in his Myths is equal to Mithya, a handbook of Hindu mythology, which was published in the year 2006. And in it, he denoted as myth is essentially a cultural common understanding of the world that binds individuals and communities together. The understanding may be religious or secular. These were the words taken place in that Hindu mythology, a handbook of Hindu mythology by Devadatt Patnaik. In every genre of literature, we find extensive use of Indian myth. Indian mythology served as a muse to writers. Writers like A.K. Ramanujan, Raja Rao, R.K. Narayan, and modern writers like Shashi Tharoor, Amish Tripathi, Devadatt Patnaik, Kavita Khen, Chitra Banerjee, Devakarni, etc. used Indian myth in different contexts in their fictional works. So these writers retold the stories and revised them for literary purposes. Indian myths proved to be open texts and a subject for multiple interpretations. Sometimes myths used to evoke nationalism, and sometimes it is used as satire against social norms. Ancient manuscript Bhagavad Gita used for nationalistic purposes by Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo Ghosh and Gandhi ji during Indian freedom movement. Allegorical representation common in their words. Raja Rao's Kandapura, Raja Rao's Kandapura is a great example of mythical adaptation. In this rustic novel, Rao frames the Gandhian revolution in terms of Ram leading his army to rescue Sita. The British are symbolized as the evil-spirited villain Ravana, and Kandapura signified as Ayodhya, Gandhiji as an epitome of divine Ram. So this is it. So the mythical story of Ram's victory over Ravan, symbolically presented as the victory of Indians over Britishers. In that context, people of Kandapura says in this context, the textual lines I'm reading, just listen. The Mahatma will go to the red man's country and he will get us Swaraj, and Rama will come back from exile and Sita will be with him. For Ravana will be slain and Sita be freed, and he will come back with Sita on his right in a chariot of chariot of the air, and brother Bharata will go to meet them with the worshipped sandals of the master on his head, and they enter Ayodhya. There will be a rain of flowers. Like Bharata, we worship the sandals of the brother. It's taken place in the 183 lines. So Raja Rao skillfully blended mythical figures in his writings to convey patriotic messages. Besides mythical setting, the novel also projects various socio-economic division, blind beliefs, superstitions, and caste system prevailed at that time. So another acclaimed writer, R.K. Narayan, wrote various versions of Ramayana and Mahabharata. His works are full of mythical themes. Narayan implicated the ideology of dharma of Hindu religion in Mythiopia terms. R.K. Narayan's fictional world Malgudi presents a rustic and realistic life, but the characters and situations have impressions of Indian mythology. So the backdrop of Malgudi have Sarayu River, banyan tree, the Nallappa Grove, etc., etc., all lead to a mythical atmosphere, absolutely mythical atmosphere. So the myth of Bhasmasura, the self-destroying demon, used very creatively in Man-Eater of Malgudi. Srinivasa Iyengar observes the lines. Just hear the lines. The Man-Eater of Malgudi was itself meant to a modern version of one of the Deva Ashura conflicts of very ancient times. Vasu is the killer of animals, the purveyor of carcasses, the enemy of Kumar, the temple elephant and the tremor. He is he is a prince of darkness of men. He is of blackness all compact. He glows with evil. The evil here is anti-life, anti-nature, and anti-faith. But where is the power that is going to rid Malgudi of this demon, this cannibal, this Rakshas? This was taken place in the 382 second line. So this is it. So R.K. Narayan's fictions echoes his belief on the principles of Hindu philosophy. In the Bachelor of Arts, the description of the 4 stages in Chandran's life can be compared with ancient Hindu tradition of 4 ashramas. They are Shishya, Grahastha, Vanaprashata, and Bhikshu. In the guide, it is believed that the river of Malgudi was created as Parvati, wife of Lord Shiva, jumped into the fire. R.K. Narayan was a great storyteller. Most of his works have a mythical breed blended with reality. Next, we just see Shashi Tharoor, Shashi Tharoor's The Great Indian Novel. It's a perfect blend of fiction and myth. And Shashi Tharoor used the Mahabharata as a fit framework to demonstrate the emergency situation from 1975 to 1977. And he uses fictional characters on the basis of mythical characters. Gangadatta becomes Bhishma. Blind Dhritarashtra stands for Nehru. And Yudhishthira becomes Morarji Desai. And the antagonist Shakuni and Duryodhana become Shakuni, Shankardey, and Priya Duryodhini. So the message Tharoor tries to send out that democracy can only survive when there is an exchange of opinion. And Tharoor states many of the characters, incidents, and issues in the novel based on people and events described in the great epic, the Mahabharata. It's a work remains a perennial source of delight and inspiration to millions in India. Tharoor wrote this novel to give an idea of secular and democratic India after the intolerant political situations. So contemporary Indian writer Amish Tripathi wrote Ramachandra series entitled Scion of Ikshvaku. Scion of Ikshvaku, and Shiva trilogy rests on the ideals of Ram Rajya. In Shiva's trilogy, we see the myth, history, and fiction fused all together. The trilogy comprises the Immortals of Meluha, The Secret of the Nagas, and The Oath of Vayuputras. The story evolves around the hero Shiva, who is charged with uniting India and creating a unified polity. Mythologist. Then Devdutt Patnaik is the name of the worth mentioning. He has written over 30 books on Indian myths. Devdutt Patnaik. His works include Sita, an illustrated retelling of Ramayana, 7 Secrets of Shiva, the Book of Ram, then 7 Secrets of retelling of Ramayana, 7 Secrets of Shiva, the Book of Ram, 7 Secrets of Vishnu, Jaya, an illustrated retelling of Mahabharat, Shikanti, and the other tales they don't tell you, but My Gita, etc., etc., etc. All this literary works are based on Indian myths. For these writers, myths served as extended metaphor in terms of presenting modern life stories. So the Indian female writers displayed their reflective interest in employing mythical elements in their works. And interesting use myth can be seen in Kamala Markandeya's novel Nectar in a Sieve, in which a snake is found present everywhere. On a mythological level, it could be associated with the snake in the Garden of Eden to tempt Rukmani to unhappiness, but Nathan, Nathan timely cuts it into pieces. But the action evokes yet another mythological connection. The story symbolizes the victory of good over evil. Next, Kavita Kane's feministic novel, Sita's Sister, a novel about Urmila, Lakshmana's wife, who behind when her husband chooses exile along with Rama and Sita. The entire novel is written from the view of Urmila on the absence of her husband. She fights with all kinds of adverse situations and proves herself as a strong woman. In the novel, Urmila is represented as a woman with different magnitudes, and she recreates Urmila and embodies her as a woman with immense courage and conviction, a distinct individual with an intelligent mind. Kane represented the neglected characters of the myth with a feministic perspective. Next, we can see the Chitra Banerjee Devakarni's famous novel, The Palace of Illusions. The Palace of Illusions, which was published in the year 2008. It retells the Mahabharatas through the eye of Panchali. Through the eye of Panchali. Through the place of illusions, Chitra Banerjee Devakarni has offered homage to the Indian ethnic background by adopting the mythology in her novels. A timeless myth of Indian society has been presented exquisitely and creatively by Devakaruni. And the Mahabharata remains a complicated myth, but Devakaruni has presented it in the first person narrative through the words of Draupadi by making it more comprehensible. The novel is written in first person, giving the Panchali's impressions and thoughts vividly. Devakaruni represents Patanjali as a powerful, strong, and independent woman having a feministic approach. The novel begins with the birth of Panchali. She was not invited by the royal family as she was a girl child, and King Drupad wanted a son who can continue the legacy. Panchali was raised in isolation, while her brother Prince Dri learned to be a great warrior. Panchali has no freedom to learn or to ask any questions. Only Krishna, Dri, and Dhaima were her companion. Besides being so indifferently treated, Panchali comes out as a courageous and stubborn woman. The novel covers whole life of Panchali, including her childhood, marriage, motherhood, and death. Besides the Palace of Illusions, she has written novels like The Mistress of Spices, 1997, Sister of My Illusions. She has written novels like The Mistress of Species in 1997 and Sister of My Heart in 1999. The Wine of Desire, 2002. Queen of Dreams, 2008. One Amazing Thing, 2010. And one more, Olander Girl, 2013. Her works are collaboration between myth and real world. Not only she has recreated mythical characters in modern world with a feministic approach, but also projects women's psyche in male-dominated society. And let me conclude my session by this folklore and myths have a very long and ancient relationship with the literature. And in case of Indian literature, they are present directly or indirectly in Indian novels, poetry, and non-fiction works. A majority number Indian English fictions and plays are based on myths, as if myth is the answer of every question for the writers. When they wanted to convey a message or to express deep philosophy of life, they choose myths as their inspiration. Myths and legends in these works of Indian writers appear to add a new kind of interest and connect them to the age of old rites, customs, and beliefs of Indian people. So this is it. I once again thank to the college management for giving me an wonderful opportunity to share my thoughts with you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello. Yes.
Net fluctuation, ma'am.
Okay. As ma'am tells us about myths are sacred tales that explain the world and man's experience. A matter of pride for me that I am proposing a vote of thanks for this meeting. I want to thank our guest, Dr. L. Sangeeta ma'am, our principal sir, HOD ma'am, Dr. Madhu Sharma ma'am. A good leader takes a little more than his share of the blame, a little less than his share of credit. Our motivational star, Dr. Madhu Sharma and Professor Neelam Dahiya ma'am, Dr. ma'am, Vinay Wadhwa sir, and all my colleagues and all the participants. Finally, I would like to say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. A lot of thanks to all. Nice day to you all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you all. Can you participants?
Okay, ma'am.